Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're pleased to be joined by Senator Jon Tester this morning as part of our COVID webinar series. Senator Tester will be talking about our CARES Act 2 bill and some of the important relief that can offer to businesses here in Montana. I'd like to introduce our MC for the program is Tom Ray. Tom is the chair of the board for the Kalispell Chamber. He also chairs the Government Affairs Committee. Tom is the regional manager for Weyerhaeuser for all of Montana. So Tom, take it away.
Thank you, Joe. Senator Tester, on behalf of our 725 Kalispell Chamber members, I'd like to give you a warm welcome this morning. We really appreciate you being able to take time and explain everything this morning. And I want to thank you for all your leadership. Everything you do for us in Montana, specifically here in the Flathead Valley. We really appreciate everything. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you for your opening comments.
Well, thanks, Tom, and thanks to Joe, and thanks to all the folks that are on. I got word this morning there was like 100 people or more on this thing, so that's pretty cool. And I would just say appreciate the work that Joe Underreiner has done. I know he's retiring in October. Been with the chamber in Kalispell longer than I can count, quite frankly. And I will certainly miss his leadership in northwestern Montana when it comes to economic development issues and business issues. I appreciate the relationship that we've had. Excuse me, I just slammed down a Reuben sandwich. So, but the bottom line is that we appreciate Joe. We appreciate what he's done for northwestern Montana, and we wish him well in retirement. Tom, thank you for what you do too as chair of the Government Affairs Board. I will tell you right now, it's coronavirus all the time. Although we did pass a very good National Defense Authorization Act, and for the veterans that are on the call, especially the Vietnam vets, we got three presumptive conditions. Presumptive if you're exposed to Agent Orange, which if you served in Vietnam, you were covered to add to the presumptive list that already exists. Hypertension, it was not one of them. We're going to continue to work on hypertension. There is medical evidence to show that exposure to Agent Orange does increase the chances for hypertension. So we're going to continue to fight that fight. Hyperthyroidism, bladder cancer, and Parkinsonism were the three presumptives that we got covered. I will also tell you that it is well known that we're working on another package. I think this is the fifth, if my numbers are correct, on coronavirus. At this moment in time, I'm not sure there's enough Republican or Democratic votes to get it passed. There's things in it that I don't like. There's things in it that I've heard from Republicans they don't like. Your input on this is going to be really critically important moving forward. I do know that there are plenty of businesses out there that may not survive this pandemic, and there are plenty of businesses out there that can use help. And making sure that the money is targeted, making sure it actually goes to those who have actually been impacted by COVID-19 to a great extent is really important. Making sure that the folks that do not have a job are able to go back to work when that job appears, and making sure that those folks can keep the wolf away from the door if that job doesn't appear is a fine line to walk, but it's something that we have to work on. Making sure that our healthcare folks have what they need, whether it's in testing and supplies that revolve around testing, or whether it's personal protective equipment, or whether it's just making sure that we have help for those folks, because they're under a lot of pressure. Make no mistake about that. More pressure than probably they've ever been in their lives, and hopefully more pressure than they'll ever be going forward. And then making sure that our educational institutions, both K through 12 and higher ed, have what they need. I will tell you that there's a lot of talk about opening up schools, and I think everybody wants to see the schools opened up, but they're going to have to be doing business in a different kind of way than before. And that may be involving off-campus classrooms, that may involve split scheduled days, that may involve a lot of things, and none of it may involve teleeducation. All of it costs money, and so we need to be able to support that. I do know that the institutions of higher learning pretty much across the board are seeing some financial difficulties, and we need to make sure that they're there for our next generation of entrepreneurs, and making sure that we have a well-trained workforce going forward. And then there's municipality and tribal governments making sure they have the money to be able to provide fire and police protection, to be able to make sure that they can still do the sanitation and provide water and sewer and those kind of things is really important. Montana is not a sales tax state, as you guys well know. And so the impacts of the coronavirus on our municipalities probably isn't going to be seen in full swing until property taxes are due this fall. But nonetheless, I think we're going to see some challenges around funding municipal governments in Montana, even though right now Montana is probably in better shape than any other state in the union. So, I will open it back up to you, Tom or Joe, whoever's going to do the Q&A or any remarks that you have to make. But I just want to say this is a real pleasure to be in front of the Kalispell Chamber, in front of the businesses in northwestern Montana. I can also tell you this, the coronavirus has been a real pain in the neck, and I'm being generous for me too. I haven't been able to get around and have town hall meetings and visit with different businesses and different trade groups out there. But in the end, this will pass, and we've got to be able to take advantage of the economy that's still going to be there when it does pass. I think we're going to be stronger. I think we've learned some things in this pandemic that we didn't know before from a business perspective. And I think that there's some opportunity here to make America even greater than it has been in the past. So with that, I think I turn it back to you, Tom, don't I?
Yes, thank you, Senator, for those remarks. We appreciate that. Right now, if anyone has a question, they can enter that in and we can see it here and that'll come up. Maybe to start with, Senator, where are we at with continuation of PPE?
Personal protective equipment, I can tell you that it still continues to be a challenge. It still is something that we're in contact with FEMA because they're the lead agency on it, and the VA because they have the charge of any gaps in healthcare that they fill in. We're better than we were in the spring, but we're certainly not where we need to be yet. And particularly, and I'll throw this into that, around the media around testing and the results from testing in a timely manner, plus the shields, the gowns, the masks, all that stuff that is needed not only to do work in the COVID spectrum, but also in just elective surgeries and surgeries in general. So we're not where we need to be. We're still pushing. We're still pushing hard. The fact of the matter is that we need to be not dependent on any other country in the world for this stuff, and we are, and that's not a good thing.
Thank you. So we have our first question here from the group today, and it concerns the tourism industry, and of course it's been heavily impacted by the coronavirus.
Yes.
Ask us about your support for the Heels and Steps Acts that provide support for PPP protection and for 501c6 organizations.
Yeah.
Building protection is important. So what are your thoughts on that, Senator?
Yeah, so let's start with the 501c6. That's you guys and organizations like you guys. And as I said in the beginning, and it wasn't just blowing smoke, I value your input. I value the working relationship we've had. Hopefully whoever takes Underwriter's spot will be as good as Underwriter. And I don't say that because Joe's sitting back there smiling, but the truth is you guys play a very, very important role in representing the businesses in northwestern Montana. So I will tell you that I think this next proposal needs to, if it doesn't, expand the Paycheck Protection Program eligibility to include 501c6s. In my opening statements, I talked about making sure that any of this, whether it's Paycheck Protection Program or EIDL program or any of those things, that they really are focused on the businesses that have been truly impacted by COVID-19. That, in my opinion, revolves mainly around the hospitality business, and the hospitality business relies on tourism in our great state and in your region of the state to a great extent. And so I would hope that money isn't just, well, it's more than just hope that. I'm going to be pushing for making sure that this money is targeted to those businesses. There's some other ones in that pot too. I mean, gyms are another one, music venues are another one. Maybe even hair salons are in that because they've had to cut back on the number of people that they can serve at a time. So I want, there's going to be additional dollars. There's about $100 billion, by the way, left from the package of $2.3 trillion for Paycheck Protection Program. I think it's going to be added to a certain extent and extended out and make the eligibility include groups like the Chamber. So that's where we're at.
Great. Thank you, Senator. Our second question is from Avery. A key need to minimize disruption to businesses is to have their employees tested regularly and with a short turnaround time. What plans are there for using CARES funding to pay for, number one, testing equipment for testing to be done in Montana, and number two, testing regions to minimize the cost burden on businesses for having their employees tested?
Yeah, first of all, the testing should be, and I'm not a free guy, but it should be free because it's that important. And so in this next package, there needs to be dollars to make sure that anybody who needs to have a test can have a test. And there's some reasonability about it. Maybe there needs to be some sideboards on it. I would certainly look at that. But the bottom line is it shouldn't be up to the business or the individual to have to pay for that. It needs to be done. The challenge we have right now is we don't have enough tests. I mean, I talked to the Hospital Association and I've talked to the Community Healthcare Association. I've talked to all those folks. None of them have enough tests. They just don't have enough tests. And so if they don't have enough tests, your businesses don't have enough tests. And if you've got an employee that comes in that's running a fever and they can't get a test, or they get a test and the turnaround time is 2 or 3 weeks, which is happening regularly, then it doesn't work. So there has to be enough dollars in this to really amplify the testing that's out there. Look, there are some that say if you don't test, the virus goes away. We know that's baloney. We need to test. It's a foundational issue to turn the economy around in this country. And the more tests we have, the better we can track the people who have got it to be able to isolate them and move them forward. But those test results have to come back in a reasonable amount of time. The state lab has done a marvelous job. The turnaround time on it was 2 to 3 days. It may have increased a little bit over the last few weeks, but the truth is that's the kind of turnaround time we need. I do know that the governor's working with Montana State University to set up another lab there that could potentially do 500 tests, I believe, a week, but I may be wrong on that figure. And I think that's important too. I can tell you that, and I push for this, I wish the president would have enacted the Defense Production Act when it came to testing, when it came to labs. We've got a military that could do that in a heartbeat. And then when the thing's done, shut it down, turn it back to the private sector. But right now, it's not getting done in the private sector, and the private labs are being overwhelmed by the number of tests that they're taking in. And we haven't even hit the point we need for the number of tests so that your businesses and so that other folks who are sick can get tested in a timely manner and get those results back. So this next COVID package, that's one of the things when I talk about healthcare being a primary driver of the package, that's one of the things in that healthcare quadrant that needs to be addressed with dollars. And by the way, we're going to get to this somewhere in there. The other thing is I think this is the fifth package. We've thrown out probably over $3 trillion. I shouldn't say thrown out. We've appropriated probably over $3 trillion. Every dollar of this is going to be is on the debt. I can also tell you that most folks, when you got a fire in your house, don't walk up to the fire department and say you're using too much water. They put the fire out and then move on. And it's the same thing with this. We've got a fire within our economy that's burning our economy down. And you need to have an infusion. Same thing in 2008. I said exactly the same thing. And it was borrowed money then too. You need to have an infusion of money if you're going to have an economy that isn't in the sewer for a decade or two after this is passed, because you have to make sure that the businesses are there. There are a lot of aspects, and I think the economy is in far rougher shape right now than it was in 2008. But because of some of the things that were done in the COVID $2.3 trillion package, whichever number that was, the CARES package, you're not seeing the economic downturn like there was before in all the industries. You're seeing it in hospitality, make no mistake about it, and it's critical in hospitality. But in 2008, I remember it was across the board. Everybody was clamoring. We could be in that same boat again if we're not careful about how we appropriate dollars in these CARES packages moving forward. For example, if we do nothing, I think that would be a mistake. And I think we'd feel the impacts of it economically almost immediately.
Thank you, Senator. Really appreciate the comments about the speed of the testing. for our business that is so critical that we get real-time feedback when we're dealing with employees in the workplace.
It's absolutely foundational to getting our arms around this virus.
Before we move to the next question, as a follow-up to that, where are we at with the vaccine? I know we're hearing a few things over the last couple of days that we're maybe on the steps of having something. What are your thoughts? What are your intel? You know more than we do.
No, I'm not sure I do know more than you do. I mean, I read the same newspapers you do, and I think the intel out there is very uncertain at this moment in time. I think folks are hopeful we'll have something by the end of the year, and I think if we get something by the end of the year, that'll be pretty fantastic, quite frankly. That does mean that this is going to go on for a while, because after you get the vaccine, then you got to get it distributed. You got to determine who's going to get it first, whether it's frontline healthcare workers, whether it's elderly people, whether it's kids going to school, whatever it might be. And then you got to get it distributed. That's going to take some time too. I honestly, I really think, and I hate to say this, my crystal ball hopefully is incorrect, but I think we're going to not see the real downtick in this coronavirus and the uptick in the economy, because they're both hand in hand, probably for another 10, 11, 12 months. And so that's why we've got to be really smart as business people. And we got to be really smart as folks that are supporting our family too, to make sure that you're watching the bucks, because I personally believe this is not the last coronavirus package we're going to see. And even if we get this passed, I think there may be another one in October or November. I wish we wouldn't have to, but I've got a notion that's going to be the case. And there's no assurances, by the way, at this moment in time, that we're actually going to get anything passed on this one.
Senator, the next question is from Phil. And given the increasing tension between the U.S. and China and the importance of our relationship with the country, what are your thoughts on the current strategy in dealing with China?
I think part of the problem is we haven't had a strategy dealing with China. I mean, it's to hold them accountable, but how? On one hand, we get a trade agreement, which, by the way, I think is pretty damn good. On the other hand, we're bad-mouthing them every time we get a chance because of the Wuhan virus or whatever they call it, okay? I think we've got to have adults at the table. China, there is no doubt about it. President Trump is right on this. These guys don't steal your desk, they steal your ideas. And they have done it for decades. So it's important to hold them accountable, but you have to have a plan to hold them accountable. And I'm not sure there is a plan. I mean, it's just, in fact, I don't think there is a plan. And so what needs to happen is you need to develop a plan on how you're going to do it. And by the way, we can't do it alone.
Senator, we're froze up with the feed right now. For everybody that's watching, we have Jen working on trying to reestablish the feed. And if you have more questions out there, we just have one up right now after this current question. So if you have more questions for the senator, please submit them. Back on.
Had a
They're
comment.
Frozen for a second.
Oh,
I'm frozen.
oh, there we go.
All right, we have you back, Senator.
So that's good. My person came in and said I was frozen, and I didn't feel the cold, but I'm here. Where did you lose me? I mean, I gave the best speech I've ever given in my life. Where did you lose me? Where did I drop off? I'll just put it. I'll be very concise. I think when you're dealing with China or any other country in the world, you need to have a plan, and you need to have our allies on board with that plan moving forward. We cannot do it alone in the worldwide economy in which we live. And that plan means hold China accountable and continue to work with our allies to try to have fair trade with China.
Perfect. That was a very good way to wind it up. Thank you. So the next question is from Eric Werdla. She is actually our Secretary Treasurer here at the Chamber, and it concerns the Water Compact with Salish Kootenai Tribe. What are your thoughts on where we're at with the compact and update there, Senator?
Senate Indian Affairs Committee is going to take action on the compact, and it should pass the Senate Indian Affairs Committee, which means it will be eligible to be taken up on the floor. Well, let me put it this way. It's always eligible to be taken up on the floor. It's more likely to be taken up on the floor or attached to another bill. I will tell you that as I look at the bills that must pass between now and the end of this Congress, I don't know where it's going to be put, but I've got my staff working on what bills can move forward. This has been unfortunately controversial. And I say unfortunately because, you know, water's for fighting and whiskey's for drinking, and it's about water, and so people are fighting. And I will tell you that in this particular case, first in time, first in line, all these sayings go with water. And it's hard to get ahead of Native Americans when it comes to water. So this was a negotiated agreement that started years ago when I was in the state legislature, even probably before that, quite frankly. And it has passed the legislature. It's passed the Salish tribe once, and now it's in the hands of the federal government. I support it because I think it's a better route to go than litigating, and I think it's pretty tough to litigate against Native Americans because they're first in time. And so I anticipate it'll be passed out of Indian Affairs Committee, and then it'll be up to myself, Senator Daines, to try to figure out. Are we back?
You're back. You're good.
Go back and figure out how we can get out of the Senate and get it to the president's desk.
Great. Thanks for the comments on
Yeah,
it.
got a ways to go.
Our next question is from Erica concerning the new coverage package, and ask about support for Montana families that have lost jobs permanently in the hospitality industry due to the COVID virus. Says jobs are not being created. So what are your thoughts on how we will have support here in Montana for these employees that are impacted in the hospitality industry?
So unfortunately, what she said is correct. I mean, we would all like to say everybody's going to come back and things are going to be just the way they were after the coronavirus as they were before. That's simply not going to be the case. And so my thoughts on this issue is that unemployment compensation, we need to extend that out. In the meantime, we've got to look at ways to empower places like Flathead Valley Community College for retraining purposes. And I know this is not music to anybody's ears. I'm 64 years old. You want to talk about retraining an old dog, it gets pretty tough. And I think it's really important, though, that we use the assets we have. And Kalispell, northwestern Montana, has that community college that I think is very stellar. And so we need to figure out ways to make that as affordable as we possibly can. Jane Karras has done a marvelous job making sure that they react to community needs. And then we still continue on working to make sure the businesses that continue to exist can continue to grow as we work to attract new businesses in, which, by the way, is where you guys come in across the board. And it's why we need to support you too. So that's a tough question, because quite honestly, we need to keep a roof over people's heads while the unemployment goes on. And then we got to figure out a way to get them retrained if in fact these jobs don't come back.
Senator, you're right on the money with Flathead Valley Community College and the job that Jane has done with that. And that is something we do need to tap into in the future here. It's a tremendous asset.
I couldn't agree more.
We don't have any more questions right now over the internet. Joe, did you have a question you want to ask the Senator?
I can't answer any of Joe's questions.
You're Senator.
I got a question for you. I know your wife retired from Flathead Valley, correct? Or is about to?
Yes, she did, December 31.
So are you guys gonna move to Bora Bora, or are you gonna stick around?
Well, everybody asks me if I'm going to travel, but it's a little tough travel environment right now. I think we're just going to hang right here in Kalispell.
That's good, man. Well, I don't, and you know, Joe, you know this. I mean, I've known you for a long time, since my days in the state legislature. And I just want to say thank you. I hope when they have the going away party for you, I'm able to make it, because I really value your friendship. So thank you. Now
Yeah.
go ahead and ask a tough question.
Well, we have known each other a long time, and I think the very first meeting we participated in after you were elected was a bypass meeting.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for your support for transportation infrastructure, and so knowledgeable and supportive about everything that's going on here in the Flathead Valley. I wanted to thank you for your support of the Tiger Grant, in addition to everything you've done to help us support getting that bypass money in. That goes back to some stimulus funds in the '09 recession, what really kind of kicked off everything there on the bypass. And your support for the build grant was very helpful. That contract has been let now, and construction will start either later this year or the beginning of the next year. So I'm just going to ask you to comment generally about transportation infrastructure. At one point, there was some thinking it might be included in a CARES Act bill. It's out now. And then could you just generally comment on airline service? Of course, it's been hard hit as well. Airline transportation and flights are off. They're starting to come back. Is there any thought about in doing anything more with that? Is the thinking with you in the legislature that they should be okay with the funds they've received so far? So just sort of generally comment on both highway and transportation infrastructure.
Well, first of all, Joe's absolutely correct. I think the very first meeting we had was on the bypass, and I was shocked to find out in 2007 that folks had been working on this bypass for 50 or 60 years, and it still hadn't happened. And I think part of it was the local community really pushing for it, and had some great selling points for it. And then, quite frankly, we were able to take advantage of the Recovery Act dollars to be able to get the thing going and get it off to a decent start. And that bypass, along with the bill grant that moves a lot of those businesses, including the grain elevator, out of town, is going to transform Kalispell like nothing we've seen before, I believe. I think we've already started to see it. And so that's important. We will continue. Look, as far as infrastructure in the CARES package, I think infrastructure is a no-brainer. It's an investment that pays back. I said this is all borrowed money, but I'm telling you, this money, if it's invested in infrastructure, will pay back in tax revenue over the years of that infrastructure. And so it's really important we keep up with the 21st century. I think with telehealth and teleeducation and transportation, and I'll get to airlines here in a minute, and sewer and water, it's critically important we keep all that up to snuff. And a lot of the sewer and water is wore out. A lot of the broadband, there are big gaps in it, and the highways still need ongoing. And as communities grow, like Kalispell or Missoula or Bozeman or Billings, in particular, those four, it is really important that the transportation adapts to the growth of those towns for safety reasons and for economic reasons. So we continue to try to utilize build in lieu of a bigger infrastructure package. As far as the airlines go, boy, you're telling me, man, it's been a beast getting back here since March. I mean, it's been tough. I mean, I find out the flights that are going out of Bozeman, Billings, Missoula, and Kalispell, and whatever one works for me, I end up driving there and flying out. Now, Great Falls just started to get some flights, and I think Helena started to get some additional flights in, which has helped a lot. But this coronavirus is a long ways from over. And I don't want to lose our air infrastructure. It's just too important to our economy. On the other side of the coin, and it's why this stuff needs to be targeted, you just can't continue to throw money out all the time. If they absolutely need it, then I'm open to hear about it. But I will tell you that the United Airlines of the world, the Delta Airlines of the world, Alaska Airlines of the world haven't reached out to me, to my knowledge at least. If they've reached out to my staff, they haven't conveyed that. They haven't reached out to me saying that they're in dire straits, worse than they were when we put out, I think, the $50 billion aid package to them in the CARES package, in the CARES bill.
Okay, thanks for that. I see we've got another couple of questions. I'll turn it back over to Tom.
Okay.
All right, the next question, Senator, is from Ken. My friend and I are semi-retired on Social Security, as well as small business owners. In her situation, she was able to apply for and get unemployment. Social Security has penalized her, calling this double dipping. Although the amount she's getting is small, any thoughts on how this can be addressed?
Yeah, get a hold of Chad in my office in Kalispell, please do, because if I'm able to get all the facts and figure that out, this is the first I've heard of this one. Then I can figure out if that's their policy, and if that's their policy, we've got to figure out where they got the ability to do that policy moving forward. So I'm not saying that they're wrong. What I'm saying is if we can get the facts, we'll follow up and find out, and then I can get you the answer. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
So get a hold of Chad in my Kalispell office.
Okay. Bryce has a question regarding the Canadian border. As you know, Canadian tourism is very important to the area here. What are you hearing as far as the reopening of the Canadian border?
Not good. I'm hearing that there's no impetus to reopen it because our COVID infections are going up all around the country. And so I'm not sure that it's going to be opened anytime soon. If it is, I certainly haven't heard that. And that's what I've heard. And we've had a lot of requests for us to talk to Canada about reopening the border. And we've done some of that. Unfortunately, Canada is going to make their decision based on what Canada knows, and they obviously don't feel comfortable opening it right now for health reasons.
Thank you. Senator, you talked about another package here in the future. Ron's asking about a stimulus check and your thoughts on how that will be included in the package. Everybody likes free money, but I'm not inclined to go that way. I think it needs to be much more targeted. This is my personal opinion. You might end up with a stimulus check, but I really think it needs to be targeted to the businesses that are really impacted, the people who have been laid off. Look, there's a lot of people that got stimulus checks the last time around that didn't really need them, to be honest with you, but they got them anyway. And I think, folks, like I said, folks always like free money. I'm a farmer, and I get a little of it myself with price subsidy supports. But the bottom line is that it's not the direction we should be going on these Corona packages, in my opinion. Appreciate those comments. We don't have any more questions, so at this point, maybe give us some closing remarks, and then we'll let Joe close us out, Senator.
Yeah, well, just look, these are very uncertain times, and they're very stressful times, and I know they're stressful for businesses because you're in business, I'm in business too, and they're stressful for me, not only as a public service servant, but also on the farm. And uncertainty does not allow for good business conditions, and so I appreciate everything you guys are going through. I know you got the pencil sharp, and you're figuring out how to be able to survive this thing. I think the key from my perspective as a U.S. Senator from Montana is make sure you're getting on the computer and rifling off emails to us. I really appreciate it. A lot of folks say that doesn't do any good. They're full of baloney. It does do good. We read them. I get a report every week on what folks are talking to us about and what those ideas are. And by the way, I've said it before, I'll say it again, my good ideas come from folks on the ground in Montana. And so we appreciate those ideas. I appreciate those ideas. So moving forward, just keep the lines of communication open. I think they're critically important. And, we'll get through this. I don't have any doubt about it. The country will be changed, but I think we'll be stronger on the other side than we were going in. It may take a little time, but the truth is we're a very resilient country. We do need to get united a little better than we are right now because there's a lot of division in this country. I don't think that's positive, but I'm hopeful that the unity will come and we can all get on a similar page. We're never always on the same page, but we're on a similar page to be able to move the country forward. Senator,
on behalf of our members, we really appreciate your time today. It's so critical to hear from you, and we appreciate all your comments. And you're a straight shooter, so that's great. I'm going to turn it back to Joe for closing comments. Again, thank you.
You bet. Thanks, Tom.
Senator, I just wanted to offer my special appreciation for your support of me, the Kalispell Chamber, and the Flathead Valley community over these years. You've been such a great supporter of everything we're working on here, and continue to be there representing Montana and supporting us. Thanks so much for all of that, and the meetings and times and supports that we've had together are very much appreciated. I don't know if I have a going away party or not in the current COVID era. You know, it'd probably be capped at 25 people or something, but that might be most of my friends anyway. So thanks for the offer to join in person. I appreciate that. And maybe I'll just let you have a closing comment. We'll close it out today.
Well, I think, you know, when the camera first came on and I looked at the office there at the chamber in Kalispell, I think of the openness that you guys have had. Anytime I've needed a spot to have a meeting, you've been very, very workable and allowed me to come in and be able to utilize that space, which is really, really important. And I thank you for that. I will also say that Joe, you know, you've done a great job, and with you retired, it makes me feel old. But nonetheless, you know, the chamber is in great shape, and they will find somebody to fill your shoes, and they will continue to be the power that they've been in the past, and it'll because of the foundation that you've helped build, Joe. So thank you all very much. Thank the folks who have been online. Thank you for your questions, and we can do this again. I mean, this doesn't have to be the last one of these. We can do these every quarter or however often you guys want to do it, because exchanging information is really critically important. And since I can't get out to the communities and talk like I normally do in pre-COVID days, this is not the same, but it's an option. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Best to you. Good luck in Washington, and have a great day.
You bet. Thanks.
Bye-bye.